Hello everyone and welcome back to Run Up Apprentice. Yes, that's right. If you haven't seen yesterday's video, that was part 1 of this. Not that you really need to know. All you need to know, I suppose, is that we have a Swedish Run Up warrior here playing a $15 buy-in tournament. And it's done pretty well so far. We've got ourselves about 140,000 chips. That's right, ballin'. And hopefully we'll do some work today. I haven't pre-reviewed any of these hands, so I don't know really anything. I haven't looked at anything in any of that. And I think that's about it. So the plan is we're going to go through the hands and see what happens. That's what you would expect, I guess. No surprises there. Let's hop in that. Oh, history. We just got moved to this table, so we don't know anybody here, so we are starting pretty much fresh today. But if you haven't seen yesterday's video, it was a good video. I think it was like a 8.2. I was very proud of yesterday's rating. I think it was good. I felt good. We were back in the saddle, you know. I'll run out of headquarters. All right, enough jibber jabber. Let's see what happens here. Okay, so I think we got to fold with the guy doing anything to contest this. I guess at this point, I will go through more hands than we did yesterday. This is an interesting spot between calling, shoving, and folding. I think shoving is the worst option here. We have 7-3 offsuit, don't know our opponent. He's going to fold a lot, obviously, but are we really shoving any 2 cards here against an unknown opponent? I don't think that's correct. I think calling is the less common option, but I think it's a viable thing. Like we said in yesterday's video, this is a good situation to call and see what our opponent does. There is no reason for our opponent to necessarily anticipate that our calls are super weak. Yeah, of course, he could say, oh, he's calling, so he's weak. Yeah, it's possible. We don't know that for sure. Given that we don't know anything at all about our opponent, I think that there is a potential viable route for calling and doing something aggressive post-flop if our opponent turns out to be passive Peter. Well, great. Give me your blind, please, most of the time. It could work out well for us. But I actually think just folding is fine. You know, all these other 2 options are a little bit fancy and aggressive and probably not super profitable for us, so I think folding is fine. Let's see what Swedish Eric decides to do here. Oh, just lets it go. Okay, you know, that's fine. I didn't know. Swedish Eric, I thought maybe he would do something aggressive, but nope. All right, looks good. Looks good. Decision here between raising and folding. Again, I think a new table, we could say, oh, I guess we're going to fold. But let's look at the chip stacks, because that's really what kind of determines what we're doing here, because we have no other information, really. So is there anything about the chip stacks behind us or the players behind us that makes us more or less inclined to raise this pot? So we look at the big blind first of all and say the big blind's got a pretty short stack there. It's not going to be able to appeal too widely. It's probably not going to reshove too widely though because we're under the gun +1. So I think we would get a good amount of respect for opening this here. We haven't opened any other pots so far. We have been, you know, played the hands we have played this orbit have been all folds. So this could be a spot we could try to open. The button does have a bunch of chips though and could contest this pot if he wanted to. The cutoff has a bunch as well. But neither of these guys has done anything, like none of these players has been like super aggressive besides this Donka Bomber guy, and he had the one hand of he even played. So I think we could aggress this here if we wanted to. That's right, aggress this. That's right. You know what I mean though. I think it works. All right, Swedish Eric says, well, you know, Swedish Eric after all. If he was, you know, Canadian Eric, then he'd probably fold. That's, you know, just the truth of it. Nice pickup there. Steal them blinds. A7 goes in the muck. Looks good to me. Fame the Throne opens on the button. So we have a decision here between calling, folding, and I guess shoving, but that's kind of silly. So I think that calling here, we have a pretty good price. We're getting 3-1 to call, which is insane. So we're getting a really, really good price to call, but, you know, most of the time we're going to need to improve to a set in order to win the pot, and we're not getting a great price to do that. That being said, we do have the chips to spare, so if Swedish Eric does want to splash, I guess I don't hate it, but I think folding is just fine. 13,000 is 10% of our stack, so I wouldn't hate protecting that and just folding, but let's see what Swedish Eric decides to do. Oh, I'm all in. He's got a pocket pair. He's from Sweden. He doesn't know what else to do. You can't blame the kid. So, I mean, I don't hate this. This guy's going to be raising a bunch. We do have a lot of chips, so he definitely could fold here a lot. If we moused over Jared Pretty's name and it was, he is from, Slovenia or something, and he was like, oh my god, the Slovenians, they love to steal the blinds, If if that was the case, then maybe I could see it, but this is still, like, kind of close. I mean, obviously it can't be too bad because we have a pair, and this guy, L. Ziak, isn't in the hand, so we're 8-handed. He's gonna be opening relatively widely, making it bigger than a min raise. Doesn't really give us any information at this point because we don't know our opponent. We haven't seen him open before, at least as far as I know. So, I mean, all in all, do I love this? No, I don't love this, but I actually think that maybe calling was worse than shoving, but I think folding is actually just fine. It's an okay thing. I would actually kind of be interested to see the exact math of this and have to determine how often he's raised folding for this to be okay. My gut says that this is like on the side of too wide, but can't be that bad. Oh, well, good luck to us, I suppose. Okay. Oh, hi there. Just 3 of a kind, no big deal. All right. Well, we managed to win that flip through some miracle of science. Thanks. I guess, thanks, little deuce ball. So yeah, I don't really like love that shove, unless we know the guy is like loose, or if we've watched the guy, then that seems okay. But yeah, don't love it. In this spot, I think I don't mind calling, which I guess is kind of the weirdest option. It really depends on what we think of this fella over here. If we know this fella is loosey-goosey, Lucy Larry, I don't know. I couldn't think of an LO name that was like Lucy Lucifer. No, that's just mean. I don't have a good name for that. Anyway, but I think calling is fine. We don't know what this guy is doing. He's probably just clicking buttons because it's a tournament on the internet. So this guy could have Jack 9 offsuit for all we know. It's possible he has us crushed, but who cares? We're calling 11K to win 50K, and I have a feeling in these situations we will play relatively straightforwardly post-flop anyway. If we improve, great, we get money in the pot. If we don't improve, we just say no thank you. But I actually would anticipate that Eric will just fold, but I think there's a case to be made for calling, especially if you would call with ace-10, then at some point your basement needs to have you should still be calling, right? Like ace-10 is the last hand you're calling? I don't think so. So the ace-9 are you calling? Are you calling ace-8 suited? Like, if you're calling those, then you should really consider calling this as well. Eric says no thank you. Oh, look at that flop. We've been punished. Yeah, this is what I mean. Like, obviously we were beaten by the ace-10, but this guy is just calling with jack-10 suited, which obviously crushed the flop and everything, don't get me wrong. But I think we could have played this pot profitably for a call, and even considered shoving if we thought this guy was that clowny. Like, if it was a live tournament and we knew that guy was like a 52-year-old amateur from, Texas, he's just like, on his BlackBerry and just clicking buttons, then I could actually argue just shoving because you don't think the guy is slow playing. But online, you're a little bit concerned that he's got like a big hand and is just calling. But I think that calling is fine, and potentially shoving is actually all right as well. On to the next one. Here we are on the button. Now we've got a pile of chips. We've got 280K, so I would really like to see us raise here. Min raise is fine. We haven't seen either of these guys be super aggressive yet, so let's find out if they're super tight. This is the time to find out these questions. I know our hand is bad, but we do have jack high. It's not absolutely nothing. It's slightly better than raising with like 3 deuce offsuit. Swedish Eric says no thank you. All right. Just stay comfortable over there, Swedish Eric. No big deal. Wait for your deuces before you go too crazy. I would imagine we're going to raise this hand. I actually wouldn't mind just shoving this hand because we avoid making mistakes. Let's say we min raise and this guy behind us has king jack. He goes, oh, this big stack Swedish Eric over here. I'm all in. Like he's just doing anything. We don't want that to happen, right? Because we either make mistakes by folding or we call and we're racing for 200K. We don't want either of those things to really happen. So I think the best play here is probably just to say I'm all in. But let's see what Swedish Eric decides to do. Nice job. That's right. That's right. Did they do bro fists in Sweden? Little pounds? I don't know. Maybe we'll start it out. It'll be a new thing. Interesting decision here. This guy is basically all in for his last 37,000. I guess we could just call. We could also arguably shove. You know, no one behind this has a ton, really. I think calling is actually okay. It looks really scary, and we'll probably drive out most of the hands behind us, but it does open us up to somebody just reshoving because we're pretty much stuck with calling. Unless the big blind shoved. So I think we have actually 3 reasonable decision paths here between folding, calling, and shoving. But I think they actually all have their merits. I think folding is fine. We protect ourselves. We have 300,000. There's no real reason to battle in there. But if there were to be a reason that I would argue would be a reason to get in there, is that we're basically putting in 30,000 to win 60,000, and we have a pretty good hand. And this guy is going to be in there relatively widely because he only has 3.5 big blinds. So let's see what Eric decides to do. Oh yeah, and shoving seems fine as well because we'll drive out hands that are slightly better than us. Hands maybe like ace 10 would maybe shove, maybe they won't if we shove ourselves. So I think shoving is also a viable decision here. Let's see what Eric does. I just fold. It's not for me. All right, sure. I think that's actually a very reasonable play to make, all in all, but I would definitely have considered doing something. I think this is also a very fine hand. We decided to raise, and Donkabarmer shoved on us, and we obviously will just fold. I think that is fine. Okay. All right. I hope we're calling. I don't know if we're winning. Oh, yeah. Get out of here with your 7-10 offsuit. All right, new table. Some familiar faces, though. Donka Bomber. Okay. Yep. Alright, min raising it up here. I think this looks fine, given stacks and things. Oh, let's see a flop, dealer. Pretty good flop for us. This is one of those spots where if you want to pause and think about what you would bet here, this is the time to do it. So, yep. All right, welcome back to real time. So, all you lazy people out there who are like, I don't want to think right now. Tell me what to do, Jay Carver. Sure, relax. It's fine. That's what. Just take another drink. It's no big deal. Anyway, so I think we should bet relatively small here because let's say we bet 50,000 and he has king queen. What is he gonna do with king queen? Probably not call. That would be kind of crazy. So if he has a hand that's better than us, let's say he has an ace that is higher than ours, that's not going anywhere, and we can't even worry about it, right? So we have to think about hands that are worse than us. What can we do to keep those hands around or to make money off those hands? So if he has a hand like, let's say, oh, that's just the sheriff badge falling. Don't worry, kids. Let's say he has a hand like 2 7s. Like, that's not going to fold right now, but we should probably kind of plan how we're going to get to the river here and maybe try to get 2 streets of value out of that hand. And let's say he has a hand that is no pair. He's got no pair over there. He's got 10-8 suited or something like that. King-Jack suited, something in that range. Against that, should we bet or should we check? We should probably check or bet very, very small and maybe give him a chance to do something. Once again, this is where location kind of comes into play for me because with no other information, if our opponent is from Sweden, for example, I would be more likely to give him a little bit more room to, or I should say I would be more likely to anticipate that he might do silly aggressive things against small bets and stuff like that. So we could try to play that game against certain people that we were anticipating would be aggressive against small bets and might find checking in this spot to be suspicious. Because this is a board that you would think the preflop raiser would bet very often if they had nothing. So betting small is kind of like the way to maybe induce silliness. Does that make sense? If it didn't make sense, comment. That's what the comments are for. But so I think that what I would do in this spot is arguably either check or bet. If I was playing against Phil Ivey, I'd bet in this spot for sure. I would never check. But against guys who might not read what checking means, as they might not read checking as strength, I would definitely consider checking here a lot of the time. Let's see what Eric does. I actually think you can't mess up here unless you bet more than like 38,000. Even that's a lot, to be honest. I think you should really bet like 32,000 or less. I guess if he bets like 35,000 or more, I would be sad. Let's see what he does. 24,000. I like it. That is definitely a good size. I think checking is also fine as well, but I don't think this is a bad bet. And he does take it down. 400,000. That's right. We are rich and have pocket queens. Wow. All right, so we have ourselves a decision here. We could either reshove, re-raise, or call. I think calling is the worst option, although I don't mind it. I think there's already 51,000 chips in the pot, so it's a pretty significant amount of chips, and we'd really like to have those, believe it or not. So I think that we would like to contend the preflop, and we're deep enough where I think if we made it like 52,000, 49,200, any of those numbers, kind of sort of 53,000, any of those range things, I think that we're deep enough that our opponent, especially because he'll mouse over our location and be like, oh, he's from Sweden. And we go, oh, okay, and then he might re-raise and reshove. Whereas I think that if we just shove ourselves, we will very often just get him to throw away all of his nonsense. He might fold hands that are even like ace-5 suited because he doesn't want to opt all in for 200k. He has 200k over there, so he's not going to call us like with ace-9 even, I don't even necessarily think. That's kind of a tough call for him to make. But if he can potentially create the illusion in his mind or believe in the illusion that we've created, okay, let's change those words again. Let's one more time. If he might buy into the illusion of fold equity that we give him by raising to an amount that is not all in. And we want to encourage him to stick around with hands that are worse than ours because we have a good hand, right? That makes sense. Let's see what Eric does over here. Yeah, do not agree with this. I think this is a mistake for sure. And I think this is actually a pretty clear mistake. If this would be less of a mistake if we had a hand that was worse than it. If we had like sixes, I'm all for it. That seems fine. Sixes, eights, anything in that range seems all right with me. Although even then, I think eights, I start kind of treating more like queens than fours, But the other thing that I would not hate this is if we had played this guy for several orbits and he had re-raised before, and because of stack sizes or our hand or whatever it was, we had shoved on him then I'd be more likely to shove on him now, so that all we've done is shove, so that he's like, oh, this guy's shoving again. That way we kind of represent our hand to be in the same pile as all the other hands, and so he might give us less credit. But I think in this instance, we want to encourage him to stick around the most. Let's see if we got lucky here and coolered him. Oh. Or maybe we got coolered ourselves. Uh-huh. All right. Well, I guess that was going to play itself no matter what. All that talking for nothing. Swedish Eric, you're running hot as the sun over there. You're doing some work here, kid. All right, making us proud. Running it up, that's for sure. All right, so we do all that talking, and he just has ace king, and it was like, all right, never gonna go anywhere. I wouldn't mind attacking here. We're gonna get folds from the big blind often enough, and you might think that the small blind is gonna be all in here a pretty decent amount of the time, but I don't think that's actually true. I also would guess that we're getting deeper in the tournament now because of the fact that people are not populating the table as often, but I honestly have no idea, so I can't really speak to that, but I'm just making that as a guess. So we do decide to fold here. I would say that the biggest thing that I've seen so far is that I just feel like you're probably just not being aggressive enough. Like, you're not, like, you have the chips to spare to be aggressive, so why are we not, like, trying to be aggressive? Like, there are a couple situations where we could, like, test our opponents and gather information, even though it's still a turbo. I think that's still, like, there are so few opportunities in a turbo to find out these things that I think we've passed up on too many of them. I mean, I think so. There's been a couple spots we have attacked, a couple of the ace hands we've stole where we've tried to steal from early position and stuff. But I think all in all, there are a couple spots too many that we've passed up on. This spot, I think I'm just all in. You could also min raise and fold to the 200k guy. That seems fine as well. But I think shoving is probably slightly better. Again, we want to avoid making mistakes, stuff like that. But I think min raising is okay. Suspicious little cold call here from the small blind. And so let's think about this here. If our opponent is super strong, let's first be real about this fact that we're probably never folding, right? We have a 3 flush, 3 straight, and 2 threes. That's plenty of things for me to stick around here for. And even though he could have a strong hand, without some sort of a read, I would probably not be folding. So I think what I would do here is I would bet small and then not fold. I'd bet like 28,000 and then not fold. I mean, as weird as that feels, you would think if he shoves, he must have something, but you'd be surprised. He shows up with like ace jack and other sorts of things often enough that I think it's fine. I think checking back is the worst decision here. We give him a chance to just pair whatever cards he has, and I think with 2 threes, we probably want to end the hand sooner rather than later. I think betting 40,000 is fine as well, but Given that we have 2 threes, I guess we could bet a little bit bigger than what I was saying in 28,000. But I think anywhere from like the 22,000 to like half pot seems fine, and probably accomplishes what we want. And I'm assuming that he will never fold better than us here. But because he has basically the same stack as the pot, I don't think we can ever fold or worry about him having better than us. Okay, looks good to me. 31,000 gets it done. Weird cold call there. All right, we've combined. There's just not a lot of hands that he should play that way that are just calling in that spot. You know what I mean? There are just not a lot of them. I guess since I'm not sure how deep you're in the tournament, I will actually go through every hand now, but maybe I shouldn't. I guess we'll see. Oh, just 2 queens again. No big deal. I'm all in. All right. Sorry, bud. Didn't get there. That's right. Give him the old claw. Oh, that was a very pathetic pink bell. Sorry, it was on a piece of paper. That pink bell was pathetic. I'm sorry. I wasn't that enthusiastic about it, to be honest. It's not me. It's a turbo. It's really not the best pink bell I've ever done. I admit that. Okay, another one bites the dust. I guess this is fine. But I think we should just min raise. Like, why not min raise? Obviously we're never falling to any of these guys ever, and we want to put them in the cage for a significant amount of time going forward. But I think we want to be min raise folding sometimes, not to these stacks ever, but let's say one of these guys doubles up. We're not going to be shoving anymore. So I think we can kind of like set the tone of min raising. We haven't been shoving before at this table as far as I can recall. I think they're going to make more mistakes against the min raise than they are against the shove, right? We're going to shove. Are any of the 3 guys that aren't the big blind going to call us with ace-8? It's never going to happen. I think if we min raise, though, maybe a guy behind us says, oh, this guy with 820K, he's stealing. I'm all in. That's the thing we want to encourage. Am I wrong, people? No. No. Huh? I can watch myself do that all day, by the way. I don't know. What does that say about my mental state, generally speaking, that I could literally watch myself on the other camera while I'm doing this supposed professional YouTube show? Just do this all the time. I don't know. Anyway, you can go back and rewind that if you want to relive that moment, but for now we'll move on. Did not work out too well for us, as I kind of predicted. Just saying. Folding. Yep. Again, folding. Let's see the hands, though. I'm kind of curious. Okay, seems pretty normal. Nothing to write home about. Man, if there's one thing that I've tried to teach you guys and run it up is the power of king high. So I really like to think that we would not fold this hand here. Let's see if Eric does the right thing here. Yes, he does. Run the cards, dealer. Oh, wow. Brutal. All right, new table. Not the chip leader anymore. This guy's got a lot. And I don't think we've seen any of these guys before, so I doubt that we're at like that far in the tournament. I guess there's still some more tables left. All right, I guess we fold. This could actually be a decent spot to attack this guy, depending on what our interpretations were of him. So, live, you could draw a whole bunch of conclusions off the guy based on how he looks and all other stuff. But online, there's less information, never mind where we're at, where we don't even have timing or avatars or location. So where we're sitting from now, folding, calling, raising, calling would be kind of crazy, but raising or folding could both be argued to be fine. So what I'm going to teach you guys, or tell you guys, you can learn it or not. I don't really care. What I would evaluate is how fast did he raise? Where is he from? This is only for online, that kind of thing. Like, how does he perceive us? Does he know who we are? What is our location? Which I guess matters, slightly because we are Swedish. So maybe, like, I used to interpret Swedish people were going to be more likely to be aggressive than not, which would make me more or less likely to re-raise in this spot because he might correctly identify that we're Swedish whiz kid trying to be aggressive. So I think I would be less likely to do that, but our hand is okay. We do have king 9. It's not like we have 9 deuce. So I wouldn't mind making it like 120,000 here because it's going to work pretty often. The price is great. We'd be risking 120 to win 107, and there's a little more complicated than that because sometimes he calls, etc. But we can afford the chips. It's not going to really hurt us at all if we do it one time and we lose. And if we do it one time and we're successful, this guy might fold, and we might get several other spots in the future to farm chips from. That's right. I'm a farmer. Farmer Jay Carver. Jay Carver the farmer. But he might pass up other opportunities where he would have opened an attack, but because Swedish aggressive Eric is behind him, he might just say, all right, I'll let you do your thing. I don't want to battle with you, which would be great for us, obviously. Even though we're not the chip leader, we do have position on the chip leader, and we could put him in the cage a little bit. Yeah, if we could successfully establish that trend right now. But I would imagine Eric just folds, but just a thing to be aware of. It wasn't going to work out well for us. Sick little river for the pocket queens. And we do become the chip leader, even though we didn't win that pot. I would attack here. I don't love it. Big button's got a bunch of chips, and, you know, these guys could shove and have to just fold, but don't think there's a reason not to at this point. Would have had to call this guy because he was pretty much all in, but we're not going to call two guys. I would not expect. Ace Jack is kind of on the loose side there, slightly on the loose side. If you don't know this guy, I guess he only had like 5 big blinds, right? So I guess it's actually fine. Okay. 2 defends out of the blinds here. Okay. Interesting. Min raise, defend. I guess it's all right. I don't know how far we are in the tournament, so I don't really want to break down and analyze too much. But interesting hand if we were going to watch that. The 10-9 defend is probably fine. The way even post flop is probably fine, except for the fact that if he thought his 9 was the best hand on the flop, this guy, he should have just attacked on the flop probably instead of giving the guy in the button a free shot at any overcard. You make some mistakes and stuff, but let's move on. So in this hand, I would probably just be all in. Calling is actually also fine. If you're not really sure what this guy is doing, if this guy is loose or strong or we don't know what his deal is, then I don't mind calling. But I definitely would be fine with just shoving. There's 140,000 in the pot. That is a ton. He's going to raise fold here so often, and, you know, our king-queen runs pretty hot, or runs pretty okay, all in all, in and all in pots. So I don't mind shoving here either. I would prefer shoving to calling, I think, but I don't mind calling as like, I definitely call here sometimes. Calling is like a very viable part of the tool belt here. Oh, run the cards, dealer. Oh, that's a pretty good flop for us. Oh, just a full house. No big deal. Ace 10? No. Sorry, bud. We're not losing to Ace 10 this tournament. All right. This is another mistake. If I had to say one thing about our friend here, I would say small blind, we're just giving up way too often. Like, why are we giving this guy 60,000 chips back? I don't understand. You know, his blind is gone. It's not his anymore. It's up for the world to take, right? So that's right. That's what his blind's out there. His blind's gone. So I just don't think, why are we giving this guy, we have queen 7 in the small blind. Why are we not attacking, either calling or shoving or raising or something? Like, I think raising is the worst of the options, to be honest. I actually like folding better than I like making it like 80,000 or something, but I actually don't even know if that's even true. Maybe that's not even true, but why are we folding this? And if we're folding this, like, where is the bar? I mean, I know we folded 9 deuce suited in yesterday's video. We folded 5-3 offsuit in today's video. Maybe there's another spot we might have folded in as well, but we have queen 7 now. How much better is it going to get before we start playing the hands? You know, I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. We should be attacking this. We have all the chips. We have 1.2 million chips. You know, come on, let's be aggressive here. This actually is a decent spot for us to be aggressive, just like the last spot we talked about against the guy who used to be chip leader. This is obviously not quite the same dynamic, but it's a 6-handed poker game. The guy under the gun could definitely be stealing. He has the chips to do it. There is no reason to assume this guy is any stronger than the next guy, or, you know, any stronger than, or strong at all, I suppose, is also fine. And we have a pretty good hand, you know, king 10 blocks some other really good hands, that kind of thing. And I believe if we make it 140,000 here, to win 123, we will show a profit there, almost for sure. Nothing is for show. We've been over this before. But I think that's pretty for sure. But we just say fold. Okay, we'll never know. Hope we raise this hand. We definitely have a decision here between calling and folding. Not knowing much about this guy, we're probably going to be perceived to be slightly tighter than the average person because we have folded in the small blind to this one guy particularly. We're not getting a great price, but man, if we're folding ace-9, what are we calling with? Ace-10 or better? That just seems crazy. Like, I wouldn't call much worse than this, but in 2014, I would never fold this hand. Let's be real. I would roll my eyes. I would try to come up with reasons to fold. I would try to convince myself that there was some reason to fold, but if I couldn't find a really good reason, I can't imagine that this hand would get into the muck. Nice. Damn it. Well, he got us both at least. But yeah, just because he had it obviously doesn't mean that it was the wrong call. Obviously, you know, it can't be too results oriented here in these poker tournaments. But yeah, that does obviously unfortunate. I would just fold this against the 3x. Seems okay. This is exactly the kind of spot that I'm talking about where I would like really like to see us raise, but I feel like we haven't always been aggressive in this spot. Exactly. The I feel like we've diagnosed your ailment here, sir. Like, this again is another spot where I look at this and be like, we could raise and win these blinds. But the thing is, like, we don't really know if these guys are folding to opens or not because we haven't even tried. You're like already adjusting to the fact that they're going to be like really aggressive and reshovey and put you in a lot of difficult situations and stuff like that. We're just adjusting too tight. Like, it could be right to be this tight, but we don't know because we haven't tried to fight. That's right. I was just saying, like, you know, what if these guys are folding 90% of their hands? You don't even know. You haven't even tried. You know, you gotta try before you know whether or not you're folding correctly or not. And it doesn't even hurt us that bad. We're raising to 60,000 to try to win 63,000. And then obviously post flop things happen sometimes. But there's no reason not to be opening one of these hands somewhere. Never mind the king on the button, now the jack and the cutoff. Like, you know, we're just playing tight for no reason, as far as I can tell. Maybe you know something I don't know, so maybe it's fine, but it doesn't seem like it. Like, why now, not the hand before now? Like, this is just going to be slightly harder to win because our hand is not much better than king. It's not better than king 3, and it's not much better than the jack hand we just had, whatever that was. But we're opening now into another person, somebody who's even shorter in the big blind. Like, I would not open this and have opened the king 3 hand, and if they had folded to that one, then maybe open this one too. You know what I mean? So I just feel like you're being aggressive. You're aggressing for no reason. Like, or not necessarily, there's no logic behind it. Like, why this one, not the other ones? Or if you do have logic, it's just not transparent to me why that is. So, and look, we get paid. Look at that. And we fold this. I would actually have considered opening this as well. It looks mighty strong. Under the gun chip leader raises. Not looks like mighty strong, but it looks pretty strong. And we do have an ace, so we are at least somewhat likely to have the best hand of the 6 of us, and I doubt people will be too splashy. So I would actually have also considered opening this hand as well. Would I have opened every single hand? No, of course not. But I would have considered opening every single one of them. And I'm not sure if we did or not. All right. Like, even that, look what would happen here. If we had opened this, we open this, right? And it folds around to the big blind who calls, I would imagine. And the flop comes 6, jack, 8. He checks, we bet, and we win a 2 big blinds plus the small blind and antes. That's a pretty sweet win for us. Instead, we break even. Less sweet. Just saying. Ace and jack against a guy who's opening to the little right of us. I think this is a great spot to raise, not all in. I think this is a spot where we want to kind of put aggression on our opponent to give him the illusion of fold equity. Just the same thing we talked about in the hand from... boy, what hand was it that we were talking about this? I feel like we were just talking about a similar situation. Oh, with the queens against Donka Bomber. I think that this is exactly the same kind of situation, and I'd like to re-raise to give him the impression that we're just being like, we're the captain here, you know, so that he might be able to look at his like ace deuce suited or his, you know, king jack or his whatever he has over there. Could even be like 4s or whatever, which obviously is not what we want to happen, but you know, any of those hands that are like kind of marginally weak, and he goes, I think this guy's just messing with me. I'm all in. We give him an opportunity to make a mistake by re-raising, whereas if we shove, I think he just calls us with better hands. Let's see what Eric does here. Yeah, I disagree with this. It's certainly a winning move to make. I would have also considered opening this as well, especially after just power shoving over the last guy. I don't think it's a losing move, but I think that it is a not as profitable move as the other one. I'll also point out to you that your opens have done pretty well besides the one that got reshoved on by hands that were pretty good, I believe. New table, or we filled in the last table, actually. This could be the final table. It is possible. I don't know that for sure, though. Okay. I think that fold is fine, especially with two guys that are so short. Interesting to note that the Woban guy min-raised and folded and didn't just open shove, because not that it makes a big difference if this is the final table, but we would note that this guy is probably at least somewhat capable of min-raise folding, or he's capable of, like, you know, raising and not, you know, he doesn't want to shove and get stuck in the pot against guys that are going to play their hands. He wants to, like, get away cheap, you know. So I'd make some assumptions about that Woban guy based off of his min-raise fold to these 10 big blind stacks. You know, not something that I would say, like, this is for sure a thing, but, you know, there's not a ton of information. Oops, sorry. I'll go back. I want to see this hand. You know, we don't know anything for sure, but we definitely at least have a proclivity, I think. And at this level, there are such scraps of information to be had that, you know, it's whoever collects the scraps the best ends up usually, you know, winning money more often than anybody else. Oh, this is going to be a big hand. Okay. Ace-9. Gets it done. No big deal. Okay. I'm all in here. Yep, that looks good. Once again, I can understand folding this because he's so short and he has looked like he's been slightly aggressive. I actually don't hate this fold, but I would have considered opening this as well. Same. I know we don't love it, but we do have a king. Worst case scenario, he shoves and we go call and run it with the king 6. Not the worst thing in the world, but folding seems okay. 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 Interesting. If we were actually at this table, there would be so many notes we could pull out of these guys as far as what they're folding to, what they're raising to, when they fold. There have been a lot of notes that we could have drawn from these guys. Like, I've talked about a bunch of them, but at the table, we would be writing down every single one of these if we were playing online. Oh, just the nuts. Just the nuts. No big deal. Pretty cool also turn card there for the other guy to get top pair and a flush draw and be drawing dead. Yep. All right. Run the cards, boys. It's pretty good. Pretty good run out for us. Pretty good run out for us. We're running pretty good here. Chip leader. I would have opened this for sure. I don't know why we're not opening this. This is definitely a spot I would attack in. It's crazy. It's crazy. If you are the chip leader and there is ever a walk at your table, you should be asking yourself, should I have raised this hand? And, you know, you should really be thinking about it. Really, really thinking about it, because that means people are playing passively enough that no one's attacking, in which case it is your job to steal this money. This 96,000 has Sweden written on it. It should be yours. But unfortunately, it goes to Blask 1987. You know, come on. It's a real sad atrocity here. We should be attacking for sure. For sure. Especially because we just showed down 10s. And look how good your steals have done. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just not sure why we're opening this hand, but not the one before it. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, the other spot is a little bit better than this one. Even though our hand is a little bit better, we're worse positioned. And actually, I like this spot too. Don't get me wrong, but I just don't understand why we're not being more aggressive in, like, the cutoff sort of positions. I like that complete. I would lead here, but not love it. I mean, because these guys both have 200K, so I would not love it, especially because we saw this guy before have kings in that spot and slow play. So I actually don't think I'm going to render a verdict on this hand. I would usually like to bet in these spots, but because of how short stacked those two guys are and how kind of like tricky this draw ha guy has been, I wouldn't hate check folding either, to be honest with you. So let's see what we do here. At this point, I would not call this. I mean, we're hoping to hit a club or a 6 or a 7. Obviously, the 6 and the 7 aren't necessarily good. Even the club isn't necessarily good, although obviously it likely is going to be. Good. I think you'll play that hand actually pretty well. You could definitely argue for something else, but I think as you played it is fine. This, again, is a spot you should be attacking in, for sure. If it's a final table, it's even more for sure, because this guy is going to want to try to pay jump through or over this guy who is pretty short. Or even if it's not the final table, but like the final 12 or whatever, you should still be attacking because that guy wants to climb the payout ladder. He's not going to just like correctly shove with like 10-4 offsuit or whatever, thinking you're like super weak or, you know, whatever it is. But instead, we fold. That's a travesty. Travesty. Okay, interesting decision here to fold. How do I feel about this? I think that... Didn't we see this guy raise fold once to us? Didn't he raise fold one time to us? If we were taking notes and playing, we would know this. But I think that calling is okay, but not great. Folding is okay, but not great. And I think shoving is... probably again okay but not great. Like they're all kind of like gross type of options here. I think if we had ace queen we wouldn't fold. I think we'd play ace queen. If we had ace 9 I think we would just fold that as well. Ace 10 offsuit we'd probably feel similarly about how we feel about ace 9. So I think we have just like that hand in between that we're just like ugh. We have the ugh hand apparently. That's science for you right there. I'm a field player, you know, it feels like ugh to me. So I think I don't mind you folding. I don't mind you folding, and because you're at the table and saw the timing and know the players, I would actually kind of err to your decision here. So I think folding is fine. It could be fine. It's certainly arguable. So I will just let you win that one. No punishment here. We'll leave the whip alone for now. Not the whip again. Oh, just 4 10s. 2 pair, 10s and 10s. King kicker. It's good. Okay, a lot of chips in the middle here. Ace and queen. Thank you. Okay, 5. Either 5 left or we're down to 10 players, one or the other. I think this is the final table though. I would be opening this hand or at least considering it. I think folding is fine. I would be considering it though for sure. And wow, that is sad beans. Here is a serving of sad beans for you, big blind player. Smarsgard. He looks like he doesn't need any more sad beans, but he's got himself a serving. Please, for the love of Run It Up and everything, if you ever watched a video of mine, you know that I would want you to call this here. Please call. If you fold this hand, I'm going to vomit on the keyboard. Oh my god. What in the world? What in the world are you doing folding this hand? Swedish Eric, please. This might be the worst played hand you've played of the whole tournament. What are you doing? You have a beautiful hand, the chip lead, getting 4-1. What? It's just like, this is crazy. This is crazy. Crazy. I don't even know what to say. I'm assuming that you just were distracted. It was like snowing outside, or maybe it was sunny and you went to the window. That was more surprising. I don't know. I don't know your life over there, but this is just crazy to me. You have a beautiful hand, 4-1. You can afford it. You know, there's no reason why we shouldn't be calling this here. This guy could have any 2 cards. He could just be raising and stealing. You know, we're making a catastrophic mathematical mistake here by folding. I'm just saying. If you don't believe me, play around with some equities. You can use Pro Poker Tools is a good site for that stuff. You can put in Queen 7 suited and then give him any kind of combination of hands you want. You will never get him to get worse. You will never get a price that makes it correct to fold this hand. If he has just aces, then correct. You made the greatest fold of all time. But without that, you know, aces and kings only might be correct to fold this. But assuming he doesn't have just those hands, I think that is incorrect. And unfortunately, he doesn't show aces, so I don't think that was the best play. Please be aggressive here. Yes. Okay. All right. Did not beat full house, unfortunately. Folding this. Okay. Pretty good run out for ace king. All right. 4-handed. I like this defend. This defend and the one that you just didn't make is actually very, very similar in terms of equity and decision. So defending this one but not the other one doesn't make any sense. Just saying. Even though this hand is like more traditionally normal looking, they're really not any different in terms of math and stuff. Okay, that's a good sign that it went check, check. Well, here's how I feel about this. It's possible that he has a hand like ace high, in which case he's probably not folding yet. But it's also possible he has a hand like 2 4s or something like that, in which case then it's possible that he might fold. I wouldn't hate check calling, and I wouldn't hate bet making a decision. I actually kind of feel like against a guy like this, I kind of feel like I like check calling a little bit better. It's also possible that king high is the best hand, although I don't think that's particularly likely. I think it's possible at least. So let's see what happens here. The small bet is okay, but I think is going to accomplish a very little. Like, I'd be very surprised to see him have a hand that just folds here, right? He opens another gun, doesn't bet, and now folds to this tiny bet. I don't think it's going to happen very often. It might happen, but I don't think it's going to happen very often. I think I'd prefer to either check call or bet bigger than this, so he actually can make some mistakes here. Okay, he does fold. You got it done. Like I said, I don't think it happens very often, but it does happen sometimes. This is not a fold. Bad Eric. Bad Eric. When people from Sweden see this, they're not going to be happy with you. I'm just saying. Your Swedish brothers are not going to be happy about this. But it's fine. You can say I'm in therapy. I'm a running up apprentice now, okay? I'm in recovery. No big deal. Ace and king. I certainly think you should be re-raising. I also think you should be re-raising, not all in. But I'm not going to say why, because I've said why basically 9 times this video, I think. I guess have we shoved it at this final table from the blind? If we have, then I think it's fine. You do seem like you're the more shovey type of person, so at least you're being consistent with that, I guess. But again, should be raising this. You know, the power of king 9. Let's be real. You know, again, if there's been a walk, you should really feel bad about it after the fact. As the chip leader or near to it, you should always feel bad about it if there's been a walk around you, because that could have been money that could have been in your stack. I would again have considered opening this, but I guess folding is all right. I would defend this, but if you didn't defend the queen 7, I don't know why you would defend a 4 high. You know, I mean, hey, consistent at least. Consistently doing it. I think this is okay. You could also argue min raise is calling it off, but I think shoving is all right as well. It depends how much like the payout jumps matter to you, etc., etc. But I think it's fine as is. I think this is fine as well. Folding to the min raise. I'm all in. He calls. Ooh, that's sad. Okay. 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 Huh. How's that all? Nice little heater for that guy over there. Oh, what? I shove for 900,000. Call with king and 4. Wow. Okay, that's a little something. Oh, I actually think I know what happened here. Okay, so unlucky for us this end, which busted us, obviously. So we got 3rd, technically, right? Because we covered that guy, and he didn't improve to a hand better than us. Although he had more chips than the start the hand, right? So we got 4th, he got 3rd. Is that how that works? I think so. So we ended up getting 4th, but I think we played pretty well. But I actually remember that you wrote in an email that you guys chopped it 4-handed, which explains why this guy is calling with the king 4 and stuff. So I would imagine that you guys chopped it sometime. I guess I actually don't know when you guys chopped it, but I would imagine it was probably sometime around this hand. I can actually maybe look at timestamps because I'm sure it wasn't quick. Oh yeah, look at this. 4:32 is this hand, and then this hand is 5 minutes later. So there's no reason that this would take 5 minutes to play this hand out. So I would imagine you guys chopped it around here, and they didn't pause the blinds for some reason, I guess. So yeah, it must have been that time that you chopped it. So I don't know what you won or anything like that. Unfortunately, no one will know. I'm sure you can Google it and find out. But yeah, I would anticipate that it was probably a decent score for a $15 buy-in. It was probably like $1,000 or so, depending on how big the field was. I think you played pretty well, all in all, Swedish Eric. I think you played pretty well. A couple mistakes, of course, that we've talked about. I think pretty in depth. But all in all, I think you played pretty well. A couple of like too tight decisions, but for the most part, pretty good. If you want to be the next run-up apprentice, and it could be you, it's very possible. Send me an email, dearjcarver@gmail.com, raw hand history file, unless you are from New Jersey or Nevada, in which case then send me a video of yourself playing on Ultimate Poker. I have an entire like how to do that document created that I will try to post either in the comments below. It's already attached to the first apprentice video in the comments and in the actual description, so you can go check that out if you want to. And yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video series, there are only two things I'm going to ask. That's right. Number one, if you haven't already, subscribe. It's the best thing you can do to support us here at Team Run It Up. You know, subscribing is a great thing. I feel good. You feel good. You get automatically notified to make new videos. It's a wonderful thing. So you should subscribe. And for a different change of pace, if you enjoyed these two video series, a little bit something different than normal, a little more like poker education type of thing, if you enjoyed these videos and you have friends that play poker that don't necessarily already watch Run It Up and such, I encourage you to share the video with them, show it to them, be like, hey, check this out. It's a guy who's talking about some tournament decisions. And if you have friends that are trying to get better at poker or have some concept of, you know, what tournament strategy should be, any of those sort of things, share it. I would appreciate that. You know, we'll grow the legion. I rely almost entirely on you guys to even share these videos at all, because there's really no like advertising or anything. You know, I want to focus on making good videos. You guys show some of your friends, and that's it. It'll be great. Don't show any of your asshole friends, though, okay? I don't need those around here. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, as always, guys. We'll be back tomorrow with Run It Up number 100. Wow, how the time flies. See you guys tomorrow. Peace.